Now to the latest out of the Middle East as the fighting in Gaza continues and the death toll on both sides continues to increase. There are reports today that Israel's war cabinet have met to discuss a three-step plan put forward by Egypt to end the war. The proposal, which was seen by the Wall Street Journal, reportedly calls for an initial pause in fighting to allow for a release of Israeli hostages, including the remaining children, women and elderly, in exchange for about 140 Palestinian prisoners, many of these terrorists. Also proposed after that, the formation of a transitional government for Gaza and the West Bank, made up of a mix of Palestinian factions, which would include Hamas. Now, it's hard to see Israel ever accepting any deal that includes Hamas retaining any power whatsoever over the Gaza Strip. And Hamas, for its part, recently rejected another ceasefire offer and has broken a previous temporary ceasefire, so not exactly a partner for peace. It all comes as the Australian ambassador has accused Prime Minister Anthony Albanese of sending mixed messages over the war with Hamas. In a rare interview with the Australian newspaper, Mr. Maimon said the Prime Minister understands that Hamas cannot be part of future governance in Gaza, yet supports a ceasefire. These are contradictory messages. He also said the Jewish state's fight against terrorism has been held to a different standard to Australia's own operations in Afghanistan and lamented that Israeli citizens do not feel safe in this country. Joining me now to discuss this and much more is the past chair of Foreign Affairs and Defence Committee, Michael Danby. Michael, thank you for your time. We've seen Labor, a party you previously represented as an MP, do an about-face on its support for a ceasefire this month. A Hamas leader even released a video praising Australia for its new direction. Does the ambassador have a point?
Well, it's shameful that Hamas was praising our policy. UK and other countries abstained on that ceasefire vote, and Australia should have as well. Of course, we've changed our policy. Of course, the ambassador's right. Of course, this is a different kind of Labor government than ones of the past. Can you ever imagine a Hawke, Beazley, Shorten or Keating government doing this? It wouldn't have been so. A unilateral ceasefire, as Penny Wong and Anthony Albanese know very well, means that Hamas stays in control of the Gaza Strip. Imagine living next door, Caroline, or any of your listeners, to these rapists and murderers in control of a state apparatus. It's impossible. Unfortunately, that's why part of the Egyptian peace plan, which is well meant, and the Egyptians are playing a constructive role, just won't fly.
So you don't see this proposal from Egypt getting up, do you? I mean, what chance is there of this war ending beyond the next few months?
Well, for the reasons you outlined in another part of the introduction was that Hamas is refusing to release further hostages, even for a pause, and that means that we can't go forward with the first two parts of the Egyptian plan, let alone the part where it says Israel must withdraw entirely and have a Palestinian committee of experts, which includes both the PA and Hamas. Hamas won't be left in control of the Gaza Strip. There's a consensus of 95% of people across the Israeli political spectrum that says no. We can have Palestinians, we can have international authorities, we can have Egyptians, anything, but there will not be an organisation that posed that civilisational threat that it did on October 7. I mean, it's all very well for some people who've, including been on this network during the day, saying that Australia and the international coalition lost the war in Afghanistan because we couldn't suppress the Taliban. But Australia and New Zealand and the United States and Canada weren't living next door to the Taliban. That's what we're proposing that the Israelis do, that they live next door to these people who did the most appalling things on October the 7th, which we can't avert our eyes from. And in the meantime, they won't release 100 plus hostages who were there, including the terrible fate of those two babies, 4 and 11 months, and all of the women who've been, in my fear, been subject to sexual violence from these beasts.